And the last one I want to talk about here is an example of what you're going to see throughout the presentation today. Pretty much all of the slides will look like this. You can see what the title of the release feature is, followed by the release number and month. So this means that you have to be on this release number for your Encore in order to have access to the new feature. Besides that, it also shows you where you could find the feature in the software, and we've also provided the description of the release itself. And you can find a photo to show you what the new feature looks like. So with that said, thank you so much again, and I'm going to pass it over to Corey, who's going to start off with what's new in Encore.
Thanks, Rolita. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Corey Reed. I'm the Director of Professional Services here at Jonas, and I'm going to be walking you through the new features we've done for Q3 and Q4 in Jonas Encore. So first off, we're going to start with accounts receivable and some features we've added to this module. First up, we have an improvement to our payment report, which is in the accounts receivable module under the report section, the AR payment report. This particular enhancement added the ability to be able to show a receivable breakdown by member. So for those of you clubs out there that use multiple receivables, maybe you track the receivables by your house versus dues versus banquets, whatever maybe your receivables may be, the AR payment report now allows you to show a breakdown by receivable by member. And I want to quickly demo this feature for you guys just to demonstrate where it is in the software and how you would use it. So just to flip over to my system briefly, this is under accounts receivable. You'll find this in the report section, and this particular report is the payment report, which takes you to this screen that we're on right now, where you can select your report parameters in step 1, along with all the other report parameters you've always had in the past. We now have this ability that you see right here on the right to show a receivable breakdown by member. In this particular example, I have mine showing it to group by member and payment date, but you can also select different grouping methods, either by payment item or by member and payment item. I'm just currently selecting member and payment date. And this particular example would look something like this at the bottom of my screen, where you can see that it shows for Michael Anderson, who made a payment today on January 10th. We can see that payment breakdown and how it applied to the two different receivables. In my case, it's showing the breakdown of house and dues, but this would obviously show the breakdown by receivable of whatever receivables you have set up at your particular club. Okay, so next up, we have another reporting improvement here. This one is specifically for the installment billing module. If any of you guys use the installment billing module for things like initiation fees or assessments, anything like that that you might schedule out installment payments for a particular member, this is under the agreement report in that module. So what we have here is the ability to actually show the payments applied to the agreements. In the past, we didn't necessarily have this connection. It was just, the billings were kind of separate from the payments. Now we've tied the two together, and in this feature, you can run the agreement report showing a particular column that shows the payments to date toward a particular installment billing agreement. So I'm just going to quickly demo that report as well. So this report, again, is specifically in the installment billing module, which is still under accounts receivable, and this is under the agreement report. So under the agreement report here, the new option here is to include payments to date. So when you choose that option, you will see this new column on the report that shows the payments to date. And this is an example right here. You can see on member number 1, Michael Anderson. Currently, he's paid $1,092.08 towards his installment billing agreement. So just a new column it adds to this report so you can track the payments that are made towards their installment billing agreements. Okay, so next I'm moving on to general ledger. So under the general ledger, we added a new feature here to the detailed GL inquiry. So the detailed GL inquiry was a brand new program that we introduced in the past, but this go around, we introduced a new feature under that program to show the variance between actuals and budget. So as you can see on the screen, there's a new column here, and it's calculating that variance between actual and budget. One note here is that feature does respect the account type's good news, bad news configuration settings. So if any of you are familiar with that, there's a setting on your account types in the general ledger where you can choose how it treats good news or bad news, whether you want that to show as a positive or negative, or should basically show the true sign or reverse the sign. So we'll respect those settings when it comes to this variance calculation, which has been added to the GL or detailed GL inquiry. So next up, moving on to inventory. This particular feature here added in October was to add a new option in the receipt inquiry program to show whether or not a receipt had been matched up to a AP invoice or a purchase order. So this is in this particular receipt inquiry under step 4, view receipts. This is the new column to show whether a receipt is linked to a PO or invoice. So that helps with reconciliation purposes. If you have that separation of duties between accounts payable and inventory, for example, there is a feature to match receipts up to invoices. And this feature here would show you whether or not that has been done for a particular receipt in the inventory program. So next up, we have a new feature here for Jonas Chorum. So Jonas Chorum was an interface we released in the past that allows for interfacing to the Jonas Chorum, which is a PMS system. So property management system where you can manage hotel rooms, cottages, things like that for any clubs out there with those types of operations. And so it specifically integrates with that program for Jonas Chorum. And the new feature that we added here is the ability to actually use charge codes that post to multiple chart of account codes. So when this interface was first released, there was a restriction here where you could not use these types of charge codes that has a multi-GL breakdown. It could only use chart of account codes that had a single GL account with 100% allocation. Now we've changed this program to support multiple general ledger codes so that when you run that night audit program in the PMS, it can now post to multiple GL accounts per charge code with this interface. So next I'm moving on into point of sale. This feature here was an enhancement to club credits in regards to point of sale. So for any clubs out there that use club credits, they could be used for things like gift certificates, gift cards, credit book. Now with certain types of credits, you might allow what we call top-ups. So that's where a member comes in, allows you to, or you allow the member to top up their credit. So basically add more credit to an existing gift card or gift certificate, whatnot, instead of issuing them a new credit. So the enhancement we did here is a minor one that might have been a headache in the past. We now actually allow you to void the top up on the fly in the point of sale. In the past, once you added a top up to a point of sale chit, it would kind of force you to actually settle the ticket or use it for certain reasons. But now we've enhanced this feature where if the user just makes a mistake for some reason, it now does support the void item function. So if you guys have had any struggles with that particular feature in the past, we now allow you to void those top ups in the point of sale. So next up, we have an improvement to the member search program in point of sale. So as users open up a point of sale chit and go to search for a member, we've enhanced that search logic here to actually let you search by first and last name in the same text search. In the past, this would always search by each column separately. So if you type somebody's last name, obviously it would find their last name. If you type their first name, it would find their first name. But in the past, if you try to type the first and last name, it would come back with no search results because it was looking for an exact match within one of those columns. We've now enhanced that search logic where you can actually type the full first and last name, and the system's now smart enough to find that member based on that full text search. So I did just want to demonstrate this quickly here for you guys. So to show you where this is under the point of sale module. As a user is starting a chit, I'm just going to load up my point of sale here, and I'm going to go to start a table. And this is the member search screen that enhancement is referring to. And this is where I was saying in the past, if I typed Smith, obviously it would find all the Smiths. If I typed John, it would find all the Johns. But in the past, if I typed John Smith, it would actually come up with no search results because it didn't find an exact match. But now I can actually type John Smith, and you can see it narrows the search results down to finding both first and last name in the search results. So a pretty cool feature, a minor one, but one of those quality of life features that should help a lot of users that like to search by the full name here rather than just one or the other. Okay, so next up we've added here is a user restriction in regards to point of sale. So in your user restrictions under system administration, system setups, where you set up either user groups or users, we've added an option here to be able to restrict users from being able to avoid credit card payments specifically. In the past, this was sort of lumped into the logic of the cash settlements. And there was really only one option, whether you could void cash settlements or not void cash settlements. We've now separated that option between cash and credit cards in case there's need to be able to avoid just cash or not credit cards and vice versa. So there's a new function here that you see in the middle of this screen that you can either grant users the ability to void credit cards or take that ability away from them. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Rob here, and he's going to take us through our activity management modules and starting off with class scheduling.
Thanks, Corey. Just let me get my screen shared. Like Corey said, as product manager for the activity modules, I'll be taking us through the enhancements we made in the last quarter of 2022, starting with class scheduling. So one of the changes we made to class scheduling to make it a little more friendly with respect to online bookings was the ability to establish both minimum and maximum days in advance that can be booked. We had a maximum days in it or hours in advance previously, but we actually enhanced both at the same time when we added the minimum days in advance. So we've allowed you to configure it both in terms of number of days prior at a specific time. So this addresses a lot of issues we had where if the class was made available 48 hours in advance or something like that, oftentimes there was another class taking place at that same time 48 hours prior, so it made it difficult for people to register and attend the class they were scheduled to attend already. So this gives you greater flexibility in establishing the advanced booking settings, like I said, both in terms of a number of days as well as a specific time at which they open and close as well. From a court booking perspective, we made a number of changes, one of which was the message that gets displayed to a member booking online when they've either reached a booking limit or there's no accompaniment rule which allows them to play. So the member has the rights to play or does not have an accompaniment rule. So what the message was changed to was the player's first name and last name can't play because of the following reasons. Either they've reached a bookings limit or there isn't an accompaniment rule which allows them to play. So just giving a more comprehensive message as opposed to just saying that there's no accompaniment rule when the club may not have any accompaniment rules in place. We also introduced what we call responsive confirmation forms for court booking. So we had introduced these for dining reservations earlier in 2022, but in August, we released the ability for the court booking notifications to be responsive. And what that means is they work equally well on a desktop computer as they do on a handheld mobile device. So people may have noticed that sometimes on a mobile device, the old forms required a lot of pinching and zooming. However, that is no longer the case when you're using the responsive forms in that, like I said, they work equally well on a desktop or mobile device, or even tablet for that matter. They automatically scale up and down to fit the form factor the member is viewing them on. So in order to take advantage of those, and I'll take you through the product in a second, you can duplicate an existing form and then make the modifications you feel are necessary. So first step is to create the new form, then to assign it to the responsive email designer, and then to go into the designer itself, within which you have a number of areas which you can modify. There's an image URL section, so you can just grab a URL from an image on your website and drop that in as a logo at the top. You can specify the confirmation, the title section, the opening statement. There's this body data section, which is hard-coded based off the data surrounding the booking, so you can't modify that. And then you have a closing section, which you can modify as well. What I want to do is take us through the configuration of it in Encore itself. So what I'll show you is where to go and how to do it. So in Encore, you want to go to System Administration, Activity Setups, Form Designer Forms, and you can take an existing court form. So I'm just going to search for court confirmation. And you can see I've created some responsive ones already. But if I take this existing standard template and I say I want to duplicate that form, and then I'll rename it What's New Responsive Court Confirmation, and then I'm going to save the form. So now that I've saved it, I can modify the designer, and then I can open up this responsive email designer. So as I mentioned previously, you can drop an image URL in here, grab the URL off your website. The reason it has to be URL is that when you're going into web-based mail, the likes of Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo or any of the sort, it's going to require an image that is accessible on the web as opposed to an attachment. So you can just, like I said, go to your Clubhouse Online website or your own website, right-click on an image, copy the image URL, and then you can just paste it directly in here. And again, you just click in and you can edit it. Same thing goes for title. put a simple title, what the confirmation is. Please see details below for your upcoming booking. And then in the closing statement, you can put some kind of call to action. In addition to what you can key in, you also have all of the fields that were on the previous form that you copied. So you'll see here, you can just drag and drop these into place. Anywhere you want them, you can keep adding text to them. So these can be dragged into any section. I could put that up there if I wanted to. So you see there's quite a bit of flexibility. Now, what's really nice about this is you can then test your email. So if you want to see a preview, you can launch that in a browser and it'll show you a browser-based preview of that message and what it will look like. I didn't insert an image, but it gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. And then once members start receiving them, I can show you an example. I could have shown you an example a minute ago of what they're going to look like. Why don't I show you my other form so you can see one with an image. So I'll just grab this indoor confirmation. We'll go into the designer and then get a preview of what it can look like with the image embedded right into it. Okay, image didn't load, but you get the idea. So again, like I said, whether you're receiving this on a desktop computer or a mobile device, there's no need to pinch and zoom any longer. Members will receive it. It'll look just as good on any of those form factors. And it allows the messaging to be more easily read by the members, especially in scenarios where you're canceling bookings due to weather delays and rebooking them at another time. Moving along, we also made some significant improvements to the activity type, court type utilization report. In fact, we created what amounts to a net new report. And this allows you to run a lot of detailed reporting on the basis of day, week, month, quarter, or year, or even a half year. So you can run this report. It's a net new report. There is still an activity court type utilization here, but this new one is by period. And when you're configuring it, you'll see in here that you can set it up just like you could the other one in terms of what activity types you want to consider, what court types of an activity, what days of week, and then what your date range is. What's new is the ability here to say what the reporting period is. And what the reporting period is going to be basically a column in this report. So this report is not a typical report, which is going to come out in a printable format. This is actually going to export a file to Excel on which you can do further analysis. In addition to that, you can filter by time of day, and not only in context of a single time range, but multiple time ranges. And those multiple time ranges need not be mutually exclusive. So you can have overlapping time ranges to cover scenarios where you have prime versus off prime, and you want to get detailed reporting on each of them. When you output this report, like I said, it's going to create an Excel document, and it's going to chunk them into data sets. And so what you're going to get is for each court type that's been selected, you're going to get an individual worksheet. So you'll see down here along the bottom, you have indoor hard court, grass courts, and indoor pickleball. And then you're going to get a data set per time range. So in my example, I had 3 time ranges. This is the first one covering 7 to 12, the next one covering 10 to 2 p.m., and the third one covering 7 p.m. to midnight. Each column represents the reporting period. So in my case, I did it by day. So it's showing me every day within the date range specified, which is, in this case, January 1st to September 6th, 2022. I've scrolled over and I'm only showing from August 20th on, but you can see the data per day. So how much of the utilization was attributable to court booking, class bookings, appointment bookings, event bookings, any blocks that were assigned to a particular employee, as well as those unassigned blocks, and then some aggregated data in terms of how many hours utilized or what percentage of them were versus those that were unutilized, and the total hours available per day, net of any assigned blocks. So or unassigned blocks. So if there's time that's blocked off for maintenance or resurfacing, that'll be automatically debited from the total hours at the bottom. So really good detailed reporting on which you can do some subsequent analysis, given that it's in a very tabular format within Excel. In dining reservations, we added a feature to assist with the subsequent modification of reservations, especially when you're talking about a day later. Excuse me, you're not closing the reservation until perhaps the next morning. So you can turn on this flag within dining settings titled Use Turn Rate to determine reservation end time on close. So normally what happens is if you don't have this flag turned on, the reservation end time is going to be set to midnight on the day of if you edit it the following day or after. So if a reservation was left open and was not closed the previous night, it automatically gets set to 11:59:59 on that date. What that does is it causes problems if you're editing reservations that are later that same night. So say the reservation was for 6 p.m., it was scheduled to go to 7:30, it ended, you took the next table, no problem. If, however, you didn't close out that reservation till the following day, it would set the end time to 11:59. And if you went to edit the 7:30 reservation on the same day, you'd be unable to because you now have two concurrent reservations, the one from 6 p.m. to 11:59:59, as well as the one that went from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. So to tackle that, we put this flag in place so that you can say no matter when you actually close the reservation, if it's the following day, it's going to get set to a close time based on the turn rate assigned. So if the reservation started at 6 and there was a 90-minute turn rate on a party of 4, and you didn't close that reservation until tomorrow, it wouldn't set the end time to 11:59:59, instead setting it to 7:30, which is 6 o'clock plus that 90-minute turn rate. So if there was a subsequent reservation at 8 or 9 or what have you, you'd be able to edit that without encountering that overlapping reservations error. Within event management, we added the dining preferences. So any dining preferences that are set up for a given member can now be viewed within the event management registration screen. So within the select registrants for a selected event area, you can now go from the quick registration tab to the client info tab for a selected registrant, and you can see all of their dining preferences as defined within the system. And now I will pass it over to Maz to take us through the feature highlight.
Great. Well, thanks, Rob, for covering the activity modules for us. So we're going to be starting off with the Encore feature highlight. We have a couple of features for today. The first feature that we wanted to highlight was added in Q3. It is the capabilities for clubs that are utilizing the canned reports within accounts receivable and point of sale for users to have the ability to schedule reports and have them emailed out to a set list of email addresses, or even a distribution list, which is a set of users and their email addresses coming from their user file, if you are storing those emails in the user setup. So what we've done is under the accounts receivable reports menu or point of sale reports menu, there's a new program that's been added on the menu. It's called Report Scheduler, and it will launch a screen where users will have the ability to add various reports that they would like to have scheduled for emailing out to that targeted audience, and they would have the ability there to choose from a saved format report. So this feature here, I'm just going to go ahead and toggle into the app to demo this for us today. And as I mentioned, under point of sale reports menu, there's a report scheduler. And then under accounts receivable, you'll notice that there's also now a report scheduler. For the administrators on today's session, those that are club administrators, we have also added a global option under system admin report schedulers. So if you wanted to see reports scheduled across your users, across accounts receivable and point of sale in a single location, this global report scheduler option has been added here as well. So, 3 areas. The program is the same program in 3 different areas. So if you want to schedule your accounts receivable related reports, you would, simply come under the accounts receivable report section, launch the scheduler. For today's section, I know everyone wants to get a sales report or a sales by member report for the month emailed. So for today's example, under point of sale reports, I'm just going to go ahead and launch the reports scheduler. And to add my first report for scheduling, I would just click on the add key in the toolbar that's been made available and go ahead and select the report from my saved reports list. So the key thing here is these are reports that have been saved through the save format feature in the sales by item or sales by member report in my case today. If other users are saving those formats and publishing them out to other users, those would also be listed here. So in today's example, if I wanted to set up a food and beverage sales report that I already have as a format in my system, today I manually generate that report on demand. I now have the ability to go ahead and set that recurrent schedule to have this, generated by the system and emailed out to that targeted audience. So you have a variety of recurrence patterns, very common options where you can have it daily, weekly, monthly, or annually. And you can also set no end date or set it, with a specified number of occurrences or at a specified end date as well. So keynote I'd like to mention is that all reports that you schedule will start generating overnight. So we've kept that 3 a.m. time. Typically, most sales locations are closed by then. And at that time, any reports that are scheduled for users to be generated and sent out would be started at 3 a.m. to kind of generate those reports, put them into the queue, and have them ready for emailing out. So that's just a note there as far as the time generation. So once I select the recurrence pattern and kind of save that, I have the ability of clicking on the email addresses key. And here you have the ability of selecting a user from the list, as I mentioned. And if that user does have an email address, it will be present. Abby, in my case example today, has a bad email, in there. If I wanted to just specify an email for someone, I could just type into the list and I could add my email. I'm just going to put maz@jonas.com here as an example. And I can also just name that person if I needed to as well. So this is really here where you can build that list of individuals that are going to receive this report once generated at that time based on that recurrence pattern. Once you've kind of done that, that is an ad hoc user by user or targeted audience. You also have the ability of targeting a distribution list, and distribution lists are set up under system administration, system setups, and that's just a predefined list of users or email addresses that you'd like to quickly select to save you the time from having to enter each email address over and over or selecting the users in the list. The next feature is obviously who is going to be sending this email, where is it going to be received from, who's going to get copied on it. And just we've provided an email setting override so that you can specify on a report basis which email address will be used for sending the email. The sender's name will be also provided. And then you can also have an option to do carbon copies and blind carbon copies as well. And also have the ability to do a test email just to make sure all of that information entered is correct as well. So that would really be the setup of the reports, and then you would receive the email once that scheduled report comes out. It would be in the inbox there with an attachment in PDF for the report file. All right, moving on to the next feature. So the next feature highlight we'll spend a little bit more time on for today, and that was really the feedback that over the years has kind of been around user experience has been provided by multiple users, such as yourselves that have joined the session today, as well as internal trainers while being on site. So thank you, Corey, and Corey's team that we have open lines of communication with, always getting that great feedback when they're on site implementing systems. So we realized that our current user driven theme, or more or less the look and feel, color, styling of our application resulted in some contrast problems for selected users. We also received feedback that the ribbon menu, where users love pinning their favorite programs, had some issues within the identification of menu options, as well as additional options that you don't use on a daily basis and how you have to access those. There was also some modules menu problems, the left-hand F12 menu, or the vertical modules menu that we have. And then there was also feedback related to setups record view, where when you're searching for a sales item like a cheeseburger, or searching for Robert Lamana as a member, and then being able to see the entire profile that has a lot of fields on it when you're in a half record view, was posing challenges to end users, resulting in scrolling, missing viewing some information on the screen, having to increase that size of the record view depending on which screen you're in. So we've done some streamlines here with with the new UI refresh project that we're going to be presenting as a feature highlight. So there was a lot of problems with the user experience, some of them up to that setup record view, and then there was also further problems that we'll be exploring in future scopes of the project, which are too many menu options. There's a lot of menu options that are one-time menu setups, like cities, states, and countries. And also the feedback on menus not being grouped in a logical manner, everything being alphabetical. So these are some of the feedbacks on usability and finding various menu options that you may use on a daily or periodic basis. And also usability within information of looking at a setup listing, such as members or sales items. I keep using those big setups as examples because we use them frequently. And the ability of having information columns that are applicable to the user and being able to order those columns and even search against that information in a more efficient manner. So these were the UI problems that we kind of experienced outside of look and feel. And essentially what we wanted to do is we made a project out for to address these problems. And it is a user interface refresh project. This is our first phase, and what we'll be presenting today that is not released yet. It is available for beta. If any clubs are interested in having this theme, we can push the advanced release version that was just released out yesterday to clubs, or made available, I should say. We can have your club receive this, and it is a user preferred option. So users that would like to play with the new theme can definitely opt into doing so by simply contacting us to receive the advanced release to be a part of the UI refresh project. So what are we doing? So we've done a new styling theme. It's a new styling theme. It's no longer a blue color with blue text theme. We'll be looking at that. We've addressed some ribbon menu options. We've done a new more menu to do away with the additional options sub menu. And then we've also done within the listing screen, such as I mentioned, a search and toolbar usability improvement, reducing toolbar options that were not used, make less is more, making it clean to the end user, especially new users that may have just joined the system or haven't used the system for a long time yet. And then we've also broken up the experience of searching and viewing for something, selecting it, and then being able to edit it separately so that you're not combined within your search list and editing an item at the same time, especially for those heavy programs that have a lot of fields, such as sales items and members. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over the first part of the look and feel for the new theme. Once the club, your club receives the update, globally you can turn on making this new theme preference available to your staff. And those users will be able to set that under their My Preferences area. So once I'm a user logged in under the new theme, the Clear View theme, I'm able to now see the new look and feel selection, which is a gray and white contrast with black text, so that each of the menu options that you're seeing and all the text on the screen is high contrasted so you can see it, and it's easily identifiable. The next problem that we had was in tabs and distinguishing which tab is clearly selected. For today's example, the problem that we can see that I have point of sale kind of circled in red here, but if I hadn't highlighted that, it was a little bit hard to distinguish, especially without having seen the system before, which tab is selected. Is it accounts payable, inventory, or was it point of sale? There wasn't enough difference between the selected tabs. So we kind of addressed that in the solution. You can kind of see now with the new theme, if you are a user that wants to apply the new theme to your preference, once you have that version, you'll be able to easily see now that the point of sale tab is easily selected. This concept has gone down inside menu programs. So if you are using sales items and you're in multiple tabs within a certain setup program, such as vendors, you'll see that identification being a lot easier of which tab is currently selected. The other ribbon menu problem that I'm sure a lot of users have faced, and we've got this one through professional services feedback, is once a user kind of pins their favorite programs to that ribbon menu, which we encourage to do because that's your daily stuff. Why go dig around to go find something that should be bookmarked per se? Once users had that set up, it was quite a mission of mouse moving from my point 1 on the screen all the way out to the far right additional options menu to find something that you less frequently use. So, if I'm a user that never prints labels and envelopes, but I've got to do that sometimes, typically my mouse would have to hover and kind of travel out to additional options and do a double click to access that additional program that's not a part of my ribbon menu favorites already. So the green items included, are in my ribbon. An example today was the print labels and envelopes program that I would have to kind of remember to go all the way off to the right side of the screen to launch it. So we wanted to make an improvement there. And what we've done is once a user has the Clearview preference theme enabled, they would now the additional options menu would be replaced with a more menu within the grouping area of that module menu, so within the ribbon. So I have all my favorite programs still pinned, and you'll notice now that I have a more menu that allows me to do a quick single click to access that print labels and envelopes program, as opposed to having to, kind of hovering my mouse and moving it all the way to that additional far right additional options menu. The other highlight that you'll notice here is the icons. All the icon sizes and text have now been changed so that you have a consistent ribbon view. A small icon to the left and clear text of that menu option to the right as well in this ribbon change. And that was really with the ribbon menu feedback, where there are a lot of ribbon menu options where those large icons are not very easily identifiable to indicate what that menu option is. And for that reason, we wanted to make sure that we can pop the text label, which is more important. The menu name is more important to your users to identify things, and make those icons small and keep that text that way. So here's a good example of what it would look like for a user under the with this ribbon favorite setup, and what it would look like under the new theme. I guess the last usability within accessibility of apps on the menu was really the main modules menu for those users that use this menu outside of the ribbon menus, and especially super users that have access to a lot of modules. They would see by default a lot of these modules would be hidden, so you would have to kind of guess to go to there or expand the option to see all of them. And you'll notice that in the new UI, we have provided a new modules menu that when you select the module, it expands everything but keeps all the rest of the modules visible to you, clearly identified with text, as opposed to just the icons that you're seeing there that we're not interested in. The next problem in setups, and this is a great example to really highlight, that the usability of searching, looking for, in this case, a member, and having that half record view where users have the ability of resizing the record. And if you notice at the bottom in today's example, for me just selecting that default first member, which was MISC deposit cash, when I'm in that half record view, I would, that marital status and business title is kind of cut off at the bottom there, and it would require a scroll for me to see that. So this experience between searching and viewing a list of items and then viewing a selected record and being able to edit and view that record, those two concepts have been separated under the new UI refresh. So once a user does turn on the option, now when I go into my members screen, I would be looking for and searching a list. And as I double click or click on the view edit key, I would have a full screen always available for the record that I'm in. This now allows us to then be able to then cancel. There's a new cancel key in that toolbar that would allow us to then cancel the record there as well, so that you can go back to the list, search for the next person, and bring up the record that you like. A good point here is that if you are in the middle of a search and looking for all the Roberts in the system, once you have the full record view up, we still have the previous and next row keys so that you can still toggle between your search results. In the bottom, you would see the counter of your results like we've always shown. So I'll just move on to the next slide here. And just for everyone here today, on the further feedback of problems, the next group of work that we'll be doing around this UI refresh phase 2 is what we're calling the project for all of our users, is really consolidating and examining the number of menu options and kind of consolidating those menu options along with giving them a logical ordering as opposed to it being alphabetical today. So an example for today's slides was just showing that in AR, in setups, there's 23 menu options today. And a lot of those are those initial type setups like address types or communication types. And we're going to be looking at reorganizing our menu structure and hopefully give a nice clean menu set. And we can end up with 5 or 6 after regrouping those programs, so on and so forth for AP and point of sale. So I just wanted to quickly get into a demo for those that are interested in the new UI refresh very quickly here. Under system admin, once your club is running 23110 or greater, optionally, the club will first need to enable under the global settings program, under system admin system setups, under the general tab, you will need to turn on this flag that I have on already in my system today for today's presentation called enable user preference themes. Once that flag has been enabled or that option's been enabled, then users can make the preference selection for the application theme. So as I launch my preferences menu under System Admin System Setup, logged in as Maz Ansari today, I now can toggle between the classic view and the clear view experience view. So once I do that and click save, I will get a big message, kind of introducing you to the changes that we've kind of reviewed already in today's session. And then from there, I'm able to save those changes and restart the application. There's just one point I want to really bring out for everyone that has worked on their ribbon customization hard. This will remove all the ribbon customization that you've done, only with the nature of the changes that we've made. So unfortunately, you will need to reset up your ribbon favorites upon accepting the change. So once I go ahead and do that, and if I hit save here, it'll just go ahead and kind of save that preference and close the app and force me to launch my app again under the new theme for my user when I log in here. So just really quickly, if I log in, so now I'm logged in under the new theme, a Clearview theme as a user, and I'm able to see the changes that we've kind of gone over in those previous slides today. So as an example, in point of sale, if I need to get to screen templates, I can now jump to the more menu and get to the screen template program, and I can launch it right away, as opposed to it being all the way in that additional options menu with a double click. And from here, just an example for today, if I open up sales items and to go into a half record edit view to show sales items here, I can search for a burger and I can double click on the grass-fed burger as an example. You'll notice the minute I double click on that item now, it is a full record view. I get to see all the sub tabs distinguished. And if I want to cancel or go to my next burger, I could toggle between my search results here, going between the grass-fed and the veggie burger, or I can cancel and come back to my item list. You will notice that we have added these column filters, and I'd like to encourage everyone there to enable this if you are looking for a variety of different things. Keep in mind that this column filter improves the usability in finding elements. So if I wanted to look at all my appetizers, I can easily enable my column filter selector. This is available in vendors, members, and sales items. And I could type in I could have partial column searches where I can now look for my appetizers that are, a shrimp related. And these would be all my shrimp appetizers. Just as an example, if I wanted to edit my shrimp cocktail, I would double click there. So just a little bit about usability and searches, along with that split between viewing and editing a record versus viewing the list and searching for an item to get to that record.